François II of France was born on January 19, 1554, in the Château of Fontainebleau. He was the eldest son of King Henri II and Catherine de Medici. The birth of François was highly anticipated, as it took Catherine de Medici 10 years to conceive. During those years, Catherine underwent numerous treatments to cure her so-called sterility. The queen did not feed the Dauphin herself, but the fragile boy was entrusted to a wet nurse who became his chambermaid. Very early on, it became clear that François was a sickly child. A nasal obstruction became apparent, as François always had his mouth open and a foul-smelling discharge came from his nose. A Venetian ambassador, describing the Dauphin about 3.5 years of age, found him pale, more bloated than fat, and less playful than other boys of his age. When François turned 4 years old, he was betrothed to Mary, Queen of Scots. Mary was related to the Guise family, who held great influence in France. On April 24, 1558, the 14-year-old François and Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, were married at the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. In comparison to the short and stuttering François, Mary was very advanced for her age, tall, beautiful, and she expressed herself with charm and wit. The marriage between François and Mary was never consummated due to the health issues of François. The following year, François became King of France after the death of his father Henri II on July 10, 1559, as a result of a lance penetrating Henri's eye during a jousting tournament. The young king was often still feeling weak and feverish, but forced himself to go out on rough rides to create the illusion he was strong and healthy. Due to François' weak health, his reign was heavily influenced by François de Guise, the Cardinal Charles de Lorraine, and his mother Catherine de Medici. In March of 1560, Louis, le Prince de Condé, led a coup organized by Huguenot conspirators called the Amboise conspiracy. The conspiracy failed, and although the Prince de Condé was able to flee to the south, in total hundreds of people were arrested and executed by means of hanging or beheading. Eventually, the smell of blood became intolerable to the king, the queen mother, and the young queen Mary Stuart, who had to attend the executions, and the court left and eventually stranded in Orléans. The move was not solely motivated by political reasons, but also by economic ones and above all for climatic reasons, as François' doctors advised the king to enjoy the mildness of the Loire region rather than the damp cold of the Louvre. Upon his arrival in Orléans, the king decided to convene the États Généraux. The Prince de Condé was summoned to attend, and on October 30, the Prince de Condé was arrested and put on trial. On Sunday, November 17, the king suddenly fell ill and lost consciousness. François was hastily transported to his bedchamber, where he regained consciousness but suffered from an extreme earache. The king developed a fever and was in extreme pain, which alarmed his entourage. François' mother, Catherine de Medici, and his wife Mary Stuart took turns watching over the king alongside the Duc de Guise and the Cardinal de Lorraine, who anxiously followed the developments regarding the boy's health. François was purged, bled, and suction cups were applied, causing anemia and severely worsening the king's condition. Masses and processions were organized to pray for the king's speedy recovery. On Wednesday, November 20th, François' condition improved, but on the 21st the pain returned with a vengeance. The king's fever rose, and on November 30th, François suffered from extreme pain and vomiting. On December 2nd, the king fell into a coma. Finally, on December 5, 1560, at 10 p.m., François II of France died. He had ruled for 17 months and 20 days. His widow, Mary Stuart, silently remained alongside the remains of her husband. By order of the new 10-year-old King Charles IX, who was placed under the regency of Catherine de' Medici, Mary was requested to hand over the crown jewels the very next day. The Queen of Scots quickly understood there would be no place for her at the French court in the future, and she would eventually return to Scotland in August 1561. Catherine de' Medici, now regent of France, ousted the Duc de Guise by aligning herself with the Bourbons and Protestants, setting in motion the events leading to the French Wars of Religion. François II, who had died at Groslot in Orléans, was buried in the Basilica de Saint-Dénis near Paris. During the desecration of the royal tombs during the French Revolution, his tomb was opened and looted on October 17, 1793, and his remains were buried in a mass grave outside of the basilica. Thank you for watching.